All right, everybody. This is the Digital Craft, the radio show. I feel like I should be talking about this in a very exciting voice because this is an intro with intro music. I should talk about being an underground bunker or being amazing or being at the top of Mount Rushmore or Mount something. But really, we're just going to do a quick break in the music, and then we're going to come in with a subtle, poorly looped track. This is going to get us a little more comfortable towards the topics we're talking about, which is computers, internet, websites, graphic design, programming, music. And this is the start of the show and the end of the intro. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Digital Craft Radio Show. I am here with Justin.
Hello.
That's Justin, who sounds kind of quiet.
Justin.
We'll turn Justin up a little bit again. We decided to do this show just because we can. And we're awake. And that's about it. What time is it over there, Justin?
It is 12:30.
So you actually probably have people listening.
As far as I know, I have one person listening.
All right, well, that's good. It's 3:30 over here, so
yeah, probably no one listening over there.
yeah. Anyway, so we've got the show planned out for once. We'll see how we can screw that up. We want to start first with our updates. We have talk about the courses really quick. The courses are doing pretty good. Sales are up.
Yep.
So those are moving. Jack's course is getting pretty popular. Justin, you have a course that you're going to be releasing. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah. After talking to a bunch of people and doing what I do in computer repair and networking and things like that, I've decided to release a course on speeding up your own computer. This way you can save money on not having to take your computer to somebody like me or a repair shop. It's when I lived in a small town in Montana, we charged pretty fair rates for the repairs and speeding up computers and things. But when I moved out here to the Northwest, I noticed that the price just to tune up your computer is, over $150. So I think my course will be well worth it to check out, because once you're done with it, you'll be able to speed up your own computer without having to take it to anybody. So I'm excited for that. Should be out hopefully by next week.
And we're charging what, $400 for that?
I'm gonna start out charging $100, but I think maybe for our Digital Craft viewers, I might do a coupon code. We'll figure that out.
Yeah, that sounds good.
They deserve that.
Yeah, I noticed one day when I was helping a buddy purchase a laptop over at Best Buy, and his mother was with us too, which that's always fun. But we found the one we wanted after sending 5 sales reps away, because that's what I was there for. But once we finally found the one we wanted, then we got a sales rep and started the deal. And then they said, would you like the Geek Squad to set up the computer for you? And it was already pre-arranged that, of course, that was what I was going to do for him. And so he's like, oh no, that's what he's for. And I said, or no, it's actually the mom said, well, what all does that entail? And he went and said, oh, well, we'll set it up, we'll install Windows, set it up for you, blah, 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 put some virus protection on there. And that was pretty much it. And and then I said, well, how much does that cost? And they said something about, I think it was somewhere around like $99 or something. And
crazy, right?
Yeah. But what got me was, I realized, wait a minute. Like, his mom was actually, like, kind of considering it. and I'm about to go do this for free.
For free, yep.
You know, these people are getting paid $99 to do what I was going to do for free. And on top of that, when I went to go set it up, I didn't even realize how easy it was going to be to set up. I mean, it's easy for me to set up a computer, but I actually realized that it's gotten to the point where my buddy could have set it up. The hardest thing he would have had to do is know where to find the password for his router.
Yeah.
You know,
that's yeah. Oh yeah.
I had it set up in 5 minutes. And
I used to work at Best Buy, not in the Geek Squad, but I used to work loss prevention. But once I got into computer repair, I actually did research on other companies, and I found a version of the Geek Squad handbook and all their protocols and things like that. And there's a lot of things that they charged in there. Oh my gosh, unbelievable.
Yeah, it's
their
crazy.
virus cleanings and things like that, they overcharge. And Best Buy, the one thing I have to give to Best Buy is that they are not commission, so anybody you buy from there is not getting any extra money, but the money they get is from the Geek Squad stuff and from the service plans.
So they're actually
service plans
the
crazy.
Salespeople are actually annoying for no reason.
Yeah.
Unlike Guitar Center or somewhere else where they're actually getting commission.
Exactly.
And they follow you around. And then when you ask them a question, they don't actually know the answer.
Yeah.
Can I help you? Can I help you?
Actually, when I went to the Guitar Center last time, and I knew what I went to get because I had spoke to you, and we had discussed, to get the AKG Perception 120, and I had a list, and I opened my list, and the guy was like, "Oh, you have a list?" And I was like, "Yeah, this is what I need." I said, "This one was $99 in the shop." I said, "This one was $75 online." And he's like, "Are you sure?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I looked it up before I came in here."
Yeah.
And he was like, "Well, we can find another one that's comparable or better for that price." And I was like, "This is the one I want. I don't want you getting more commission. I just want what I want, and I want to leave."
Yeah, as an ex-employee of Guitar Center, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And, yeah, we've had that discussion before. So, yeah. What is the name of your course again?
It's going to be Speed Up Your Own Computer, Skip the Repair Shops.
Speed up your own computer, skip the repair shops?
Yep.
Alright. So the next update we have, I've been looking for a charity here in town to donate to or incorporate with a little bit. We'll do more charities as we go along, but as we do better, we want to do some good too. And the charity we're working with right now is an addiction related charity. It's called the Hope House, or at least it's the one I'm looking into. I met with the person who runs the Hope House here in Fort Wayne, Indiana, and they deal specifically or strictly with women, and it seems like it's kind of a transition from being dependent on drugs or alcohol, and kind of transitioning into not only getting off of the substance, but being able to take care of yourself in the real world. And I like them, one, because they seem very genuine, but they're also not intertwined with the horrible court system here, who likes to make money off of people with a disease. And and I don't stand for that. I'm pretty sure Justin's on the same page with me.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's kind of the reason behind picking that. So we're working on some ways to benefit them. Of course, we'll benefit a little bit too, kind of a cross promotion, but definitely with the emphasis on benefiting them. But so that's in the works. That'll also be part of the new website, which we're working on, and that's coming along pretty well too. I didn't have that in the update list, but I just remembered that.
Oh, that's all right.
I know. I'm the boss.
Did you a little off topic? I just wanted to jump in real quick here, and I was checking our Twitter, and that Spreaker actually tweeted about the digital craft.
Oh yeah, I've got everything linked.
They actually said to tune into it for discussions, tutorials, and training on computer-related technologies. That's cool.
Yeah, I've got everything linked together.
Well, that's because you're awesome.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Is this a radio show or like a pat your back? I was going to say something else, but I caught myself.
This is how it goes.
Anyway, so back to the show. Today, we got our updates out of the way. Today we're going to talk about the main topic is going to be client management, or kind of a portion of client management, more in the lines of contracts, NDAs, and more specifically client control. And what we really mean by that is, maintaining a good balance of who's in charge when you're working with a client, especially if you're a freelancer. And that would be why the topic or the title of the show is The Client Always Right. So that's the main topic, and then we're also going to talk about the Windows Surface and what we've learned about that over the last few days, and what Wikipedia and the web tells us right now. Oops. Did I give a secret out, Justin? That we don't actually know everything. We just read it. Anyway.
We know pretty much everything. We just have to reference from Wikipedia.
Yeah, that's true. Because Wikipedia is the all-knowing thing. Anyway. So, as with our format, we are going to do a music break and then move into the Surface talk, followed by another music break, and then we're going to discuss the client management. Is the client always right? The song we're going to play now is a local band here in Fort Wayne, Indiana, which, just to bring up, now that I'm thinking about it, we will be playing local music from Justin's neck of the woods, and we have played some music from Jack's neck of the woods. We're just waiting to get a little more material, but we want to promote the local bands in our own cities to this international audience we have. So the flood of music from little old Fort Wayne, Indiana, will soon be balanced out with music from wherever Justin is, which I haven't totally figured it out. Are you actually in Portland?
We'll just say yes, because every time I'm actually in Vancouver, Washington, but whenever I say Vancouver, people think Canada, so I'll just say Portland.
Well, and then when you say Portland, I think of Oregon.
Yeah, and that's Portland, Oregon. Yeah, I'm 10 minutes from Portland, Oregon, so.
So there's a Portland, Washington next to Portland?
No, there's a Vancouver, Washington next to Portland, Oregon.
Oh. Now I feel stupid.
Yeah, that's all right.
I know my geography very well. So anyways, back to music. Derail. Yeah, so this band is Pliers, featuring my friend on guitar and vocals, Scotty Too Hottie, otherwise known as Poop to Flex, sometimes, and on drums and sometimes vocals, local legend here, Cornfed Johnson, who is the original two-man band. Started that about 25, 30 years ago. I remember seeing his two-man band when I was like 17 years old. And now that whole thing's coming back. And this is another two-man band with him. But this is Pliers, Kiss My Bass, the title of the album that, I always screw it up. I'll tell you later. How's that? It's something about long-haired country boy versus short-haired city boy or something like that. I actually did the album artwork and recorded the album, so that's pretty pathetic. That I don't know any of that. So, with that introduction, here is Kiss My Bass by Pliers. And that was Pliers' Kiss My Bass. We are here again with Justin, who is in Portland, Vancouver, West Coast, somewhere. We're also joined by Cassie in the chat, which I would not have realized had Justin not notified me.
And I can't remember. I think Cassie is in Spokane, Washington, I believe, still.
Now that I understand. Spokane makes sense.
Yeah, you know about Spokane.
Yeah, I do. I know. I know it all. Actually, I have no idea what that innuendo was about. But yeah, anyway, that was Kiss My Bass from Pliers. And they are a two-man band from Fort Wayne, Indiana, with the legendary Corn-Fed Johnson on drums and vocals, and Scottie Pippen, too hottie, poop to flex on guitar and vocals. With the gut-wrenching, horrible, but can't help but listen to what he's saying voice. I'm sure there is no innuendo with the term kiss my bass or you can take my fishing pole and put it down the deep, deep hole.
None.
I think he means that literally. I don't think there's anything, any hidden meaning in that. So,
Well,
with that
say
said,
it backwards. See if something satanic comes out of it or something.
yeah, probably. Yeah, Cassie's right. I have a hard time paying attention to chat and talking at the same time.
Yeah, I had that the other day too on my episode about the mall shooting here. It was like everybody was talking to each other, but I kind of wanted to see what they were talking about, and I couldn't keep up. I just sounded retarded on the radio because I'd be talking and then I'd look over to read and it would just slow me down, and yeah. So I stopped reading the chat until music breaks.
Now I wonder, is Cassie a techie person?
Somehow I doubt it. Not in a mean way, but I've never really seen her. She's a crafty person, I know that. But I don't think she's a techie type of person. I don't know for sure.
Just curious. So we could always add her to the show if we wanted to. But anyway, let's move on to... Oh god, microphones. Probably hurt someone's ears there. All three of us. Windows Surface. Justin, what are your thoughts? Windows Surface.
Windows Surface, I like it if you have a nice little touch screen. Like the actual ones that have the snap-on keyboards. I think they're slick. I think Microsoft has been needing something, excuse me, to kind of pull them out of their funk. It seems like Apple has been taking over the market with their mobile things, their iPhone and their iPad, and Windows has had their Windows Phone forever with that Metro UI, it was called, and now to come up with a tablet, I think it's actually kind of genius, and to have two versions.
And they've pretty much taken that Metro UI and incorporated into, or some sort of version of it into this.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm not used to it because I've never worked with it before, and I downloaded the beta of Windows 8 and put it on a regular computer of mine, and it's hard on a regular computer with just a mouse and keyboard, but with a touch screen, it's a whole lot easier to use.
It's still a little... I don't know. I haven't gotten used to it yet, and I've ranted about it already on my touchscreen. Because I did as well download the preview on one of my junk computers just to see how it looked, and then when I found out they offered the software or the OS for like $39 to upgrade, yeah. I went ahead and did it on my touchscreen, and so I mean it's I don't know. I'm still debating whether I like it or not. I find that... Those... No, go ahead, man.
No, it's definitely one of those that I think and Microsoft knows is that it's going to take some people some time to get used to. But yeah. They say that it's I mean, from what I can see, it's fast. I mean, it's slick. It is quick.
Now, are we talking about the Surface or Windows 8?
The Surface.
Yeah, that's what. Yeah, it seems that it is, and since it's running, on solid state hard drives, I'm sure the load time is pretty good. I mean, just turning the machine on itself, and yeah, we are talking about the Surface, and I was going to go on a rant again about my touchscreen, but I did want to note, like, with the touchscreen, I think my biggest issue is that I realized that. I bought the touchscreen because I had a client who needed an application built for a touchscreen for a kiosk. For they had a photo booth kiosk thing. They went to parties, and well, that's another story. But anyways, like, they needed a touchscreen kind of kiosk application, so I needed a touchscreen computer. But even with the Windows 8 on there, I find that I don't have a lot of need to touch the screen. I really prefer using my mouse and keyboard. You know what I mean? So the tablet makes sense. That's why I'm kind of excited about the Surface, because it makes way more sense to me. But when I'm sitting at a desk with this touchscreen computer in front of me, tapping on it and things like that just seems, I don't know, pointless. When I still have a keyboard and mouse.
Good, but in practice, it's not. Yeah, it's one of those that probably in their research they're thinking, oh yeah, it'd be nice to be able to touch the screen and do all this, but literally, for computer junkies like us that have relied on a keyboard and mouse forever, it's just too awkward to put that aside and just use your touch screen on your desk. So, but with tablets, you kind of switch your brain mode into like tablet mode, where you have to touch everything. That's the only way to navigate. So,
and that brings up a good point about the difference between the tablet and the desktop computer too. Is that a lot of the interface features, like, in order to get to the start menu, or their whatever they call it, with all the panels, you have to kind of like hold your computer like a tablet. You have to kind of grab onto it with your hands and swipe on the right side with your thumb. If you don't hold on to it, it doesn't work very well, and you end up tapping something or doing something you didn't intend on doing. So you end up kind of like, it almost looks like you're like trying to kill your computer when you're like strangling it. So to me, that just doesn't work for me. So, but again, back to the Surface. The Surface, like you said, it's it's in your hands. It's something you're used to, and if your hands are on the right and left, I mean, you're going to be holding it like that. And so those actions will come real natural and swift, and so that's kind of what I was getting at. Those actions are not very natural on a all-in-one touchscreen computer on your desk.
No,
but in your lap, definitely. But one thing that I had noticed, one of our corporate, not necessarily clients. We don't have clients. We have students. But one of the corporate accounts we have, the guy had brought up that they were thinking about buying Surfaces for their office for everybody, or all the salespeople to have. And then they found out that there's actually two versions, and I don't know if everybody knows that yet or not. There is the Surface with Windows RT and Surface with Windows 8 Pro. And the Surface with Windows 8 Pro is not released yet. But if you're hoping to have some of the benefits that I was excited about anyway, when they released the Surface, if you're hoping for that, you have to wait for the Windows 8 Pro and spend the extra money. It looks like the retail
there's like a $300 or $400 price difference in there.
Yeah, it's starting at $899 for the Surface with Windows 8 Pro, and for RT it starts at $499. And what we were talking about, the difference, or the main difference, is that with the RT version, it's almost kind of like, when you bought a netbook and you got Windows 7 and then you realized you got Windows 7 Starter, and it's extremely stripped down. You can't even change the desktop background, it's kind of in that same light. They've stripped it down, so Windows RT forces you to rely on the Windows 8 apps. And to clarify, that's not like, Photoshop or Adobe put out a Photoshop version that's compatible with Windows 8. That's not a Windows 8 app. We're talking more apps, like simple apps like on an Android or a iPod, iPad, iOS machine or device. So they're kind of, it's clever on their end to kind of push that. But at the same time, I think the real selling point of a Surface is the ability to use all the software that you're used to on your Windows machine. And I don't think they're being very clear about that, and so they're going to probably have some don't know what the right word for it is, but kickback? No. I wanted to say whiplash too. No, that's not right. Problems. How about that? Grumpy people.
A lot of people are going to be buying RT expecting more.
Yeah.
And then complaining and then returning them, and that seems to be, one of my problems with Microsoft in general is they seem to rush a lot of their things out without testing them and without proper marketing and things like that.
And it's actually example. It's kind of a mixture of two things. They rush because they took too much time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They waited, and then all of a sudden, man, shit, we got to get in the market.
Yeah, exactly.
Apple and Google are killing us. What can we do? And whoever they polled about the start menu, I don't know where they found these people who said that because I read the kind of report on why they got rid of the start menu, and they did some think tank and polling, and most of the people that in the poll said we don't use the start menu, we use shortcuts. And I don't really know anybody that uses any shortcuts to get around or to open up their programs.
No,
everybody still uses the start menu, clicking on it. I mean, at the very most, maybe pushing the Windows key to open the start menu. But as far as navigating to the applications, do you do that?
No.
Do you know how to do that?
Yeah, see, I have when I was younger, I actually taught myself, and this is just from tinkering around, but I taught myself how to use a computer without a mouse in the event that a mouse was not available or my mouse stopped working. So I can work an entire computer with just a keyboard. So I like keyboard shortcuts. However, I also use the start menu because that's been Windows staple since Windows 3.1. I mean, that's their thing, is start menu, programs, and at the very least, most people use the start menu to access their documents, or their pictures, or...
I'll correct you, though. That was 95, not 3.1.
Yeah, not 3.1. I'm sorry. 3.1 was very cut down. That was very cut and dry.
Yeah.
But the other ones that... with like keyboard shortcuts and things like that, I use them, but not a lot are normal users that are going to go out and buy one of these Windows Surfaces or the Windows 8 Pro even are going to have a clue how to start these programs by keyboard shortcuts. However, there is third-party software, or otherwise known as software you can buy that is not Microsoft, that will put a start menu back on there for you, which I'm sure Microsoft has a piece of that pie as well. And there's also a shortcut that you can, if you right-click on the taskbar in your Windows 8 and do it's called desktop toolbar, that'll kind of give you a start menu. It'll give you like a list with control panel and computer and a few other things. So it's kind of like a start menu, but not. Well, and here's another thing that's really crazy about it that I noticed, that you cannot shut them down. There's no restart button. There's no shutdown button.
Oh, no, there is. It's just hard to get to.
Is there?
Yeah, and if I wasn't away from my machine with Windows 8 on it, I'd tell you how to. You have to kind of, well, now I want to go try it. Um, I'll do that in a second. But
Yeah, but
you're
think of
right.
it
I
as
mean,
like a
and it's like
normal user.
yeah, and I mean, I use keyboard shortcuts all day, but
Yeah.
never have I used it to open programs or navigate
No.
the start menus. I don't know. I don't know who in the world they pulled, and I would think that the people that are most likely to use those shortcuts would be people like us in the industry who work on computers, and I don't know anybody in our industry that does that. The average consumer probably doesn't even know. I mean, actually, honestly, the average consumer I've noticed doesn't even know the shortcut for copy and paste.
Right.
But yeah, back to the Surface again. I had a feeling this would turn into a Windows 8 rant.
Yeah.
But so to clarify, yeah, the Windows Surface with Windows RT, which Windows RT is it's a release in its own. It's an operating system in its own. It is not Windows 8. It's Windows RT. I mean, obviously it looks like Windows 8, but it is its own thing. What they've noted is, even though you can't use normal software that you're used to, you can still use, like, you can still have a desktop. You can go to the desktop. You can open a Windows Explorer to get through around the computer and stuff like you're used to. And of course, because they're clever, you can still use their newer versions of Microsoft Office that are built specifically for the Surface or tablet, or I mean, basically they're built for that. But those are built and run like you're used to. So it pretty much seems like you can use, or my saying that you can't use software you're used to isn't totally true, but it's pretty much limited to the software that Windows produced. I'm sure there's going to be a Windows or a Internet Explorer readily available there for you to look at the internet poorly with. But that's another rant we could get on some other day. But yeah, so that's that. The Windows 8 Pro version is like having, I mean, so far from reading, it is no different than having a Windows computer, only in tablet form. And it has an HD display port so that you can actually hook up to a HD monitor, which means you could actually you can use it as a tablet, and then you could come home and set it up on your desktop and use it as a your home machine, connected to a monitor and a regular keyboard and mouse, things like that, because it does have a USB 2 port. I think it only has one port, but still, that's good. I mean, you might even be able to put a hub on there. I don't know how they handle that. But we also noticed it has a micro SD card slot, so you can add more memory. I'm pretty sure you could also use that USB port to put a external hard drive on there as well.
No, yeah, that'd be good. See, unlike the iPads, there's zero expansion. If you get a 32 or a 64 gig iPad, you're stuck with that. There's no getting any more space.
Yeah, not without jailbreaking it.
Yeah,
there's absolutely no way to really do that, and really the only way to kind of get more space is to buy the adapter for the SD card. So that's another $40, which is pretty much the standard for their adapters. And I'm sure I've mentioned before, I've got about $250 worth of adapters for my iPod or my iPad, which is pretty stupid. And I've got a $300, maybe $400 Android tablet that has all the ports necessary, expansion, USB port, I can plug a USB keyboard and mouse into it. I mean, that's Apple's got to get on the game there. Microsoft may be way behind in general, but Apple's definitely, I don't know. Maybe it's good for them because I know why they do it. It makes them more money. They have their reasons, but it is irritating as all hell. But I'm interested to see how the Surface does. And for those who don't know, Surface actually, this is I don't know if this is the right term, but a rebranding. Surface was actually a different product.
That's right.
A few years back, actually, it could have been even more than, it could have been actually 5 years ago. I don't know. I don't remember when I first heard about the Surface, but the Surface was originally supposed to be a tabletop. You'll actually see it, or I don't know if they still use it, but some of the news channels use it. You'll see somebody talking, maybe like looking at a map, talking about, probably war, but on the news, and they're touching this tabletop that's controlling a screen you're looking at, and that's a version, a release of the original Microsoft Surface. So it was really meant to be a tabletop computer, which I'm hoping they didn't scratch that, because I think it has some potential, not necessarily in the household or consumer use, but in the professional, or not professional, but can't think of the right word. The business world.
Yeah,
for instance,
they had for a while there, they were talking about having it in restaurants. Where you would come into a restaurant, have it sit at your table, and you could actually set your credit card down on the table, and it would recognize your name and your number, and then you could actually order from your table. You could get the menus in your table, and you can order from the table, and it would send your order back to the kitchen. And then if you needed a refill, you would put your glass in a certain spot on the table. It would register your glass as being empty, and somebody would come out and refill your glass. It would be like almost fully automated. And then they'd also have like an iTunes store or something in there, so you could flip through on this table. You could flip through music and stuff, and then play these albums while you're sitting waiting for your food.
Yeah. And you can, use the
happened.
internet and things like that. And actually, one thing that you mentioned was a little incorrect, I believe. The glass thing actually had a chip in it, and you didn't.
They do.
You didn't even have to
does.
put it somewhere. It actually, if I remember correctly, it registered that it was running low on its own.
Yeah, they would. Most of the stuff would all have chips in them. Yeah.
You didn't actually even have to say, "Hey, I'm running low," and put it in a certain spot. It actually, when your drink was low, it automatically flagged the server and said, "Table 8's drink is low. They need a Pepsi." So
yeah, and then a robot would come out.
Yeah, exactly. It's getting that point, but yeah, I mean, I was really excited about that because with the price tag of them, it was going to be pretty unlikely. They were upwards of $2-3 grand a piece, is what they were talking about at the time. So that would have to be a real upscale restaurant to incorporate those. But either way, I think the price tag can definitely go down by now with technology the way it is.
Absolutely, especially with I can't remember the guy's name, but the guy that made basically the same thing with a projector and Microsoft, or not Microsoft, a Nintendo Wii controller. He made basically the same kind of touchscreen.
Yeah, I've seen
cheaper.
people do things like that. So
I'd love for them to find a cheap way of doing that and put those in, even like at airports or something, where you could just put your tickets down on the table and it would register you and check you in. And
well, we're getting that way with cell phones, and that's a topic for probably another day. But I'll do a lead into it, and I think I've talked to you about this, Justin, or maybe you already knew, but several years ago, when you would register to a website, it was most common that you would create a username, and if that username exists or was available, you could use it, and that's how you logged in, your username and your password. And then us developers started realizing, why don't we just use email addresses? We know they're going to be unique. There's no two email addresses that are the same, So we started using those for registration. Well, now that phones pretty much, I almost said control our life, but that's pretty true. But our life kind of revolves around our phone in a sad way. But we also keep our phone numbers. Our phone is kind of like our identity now. And what's starting to happen is that we're phasing out the email address and using a phone number now as your unique identifier. I don't know if you noticed that yet, Justin, but on Facebook you can now log in with your phone number if you set it up.
Go figure.
Yeah, so your phone and your number is going to become your identity on the internet, and as we get further into this weird world that's turning into more like Terminator stuff, where you can look through glasses and see things about people, that's your phone is going to be the major part of that. Your phone's going to be able to tell people walking, I could be on one side of the street and then Justin could be walking on the other, and I don't know Justin, but I can find things out about him because his phone's on and his Facebook account is up and he's allowed his details to be public. And now all of a sudden I know all about this person who is a perfect stranger across the street, and I know whether I want to meet him or not. Same with somebody who I may be meeting and I don't know anything about. I can find a lot out about them, before while they don't know. Of course, they're doing the same thing to me, and it's going to create a very interesting world here soon. But like I said, that's another topic, but that is coming. The whole phone number registration technique is just kind of the start of it, but Google's already working on technology to do what I was just talking about. But
wow,
yeah. Back to the Surface to kind of close that out. I think we covered everything. So basically, the main thing to know is that it looks like a good device. Until we get one here at the Digital Craft, we can't really say much. But from the looks of it, they're very light. It's a sleek design. The keyboard looks annoying, but I like to have that action. I don't like. I might as well type on the screen if it's just going to be a flat surface. But that aside, it looks like it's going to be a good device. It's putting Microsoft back in the game, but it's definitely important to note that the Windows RT version is not necessarily going to be what you want. If you want a Windows computer, that's not it. So if you're looking for the tablet experience in a Windows Metro kind of format, like a bigger version of your Windows phone, that's what you get. That's what the the one that's released now is. So that's important to note. I would hate to see a bunch of people go out and spend $500 just to find out that now they've got to spend $900 more to get what they really wanted. So that's.
Don't forget too that you have to. You don't have to, but it's pretty forced upon you that you have to have a Windows Live account.
Yeah.
For using like the calendar app on the both the RT and the Windows 8 Pro. You have to have a Windows Live account to use their calendar and a few other things on there as well, like the contacts and things like that. You can't have a Gmail account linked to it or anything. It's pushed Microsoft.
Yeah, and they're going to struggle with that one.
Yeah, they will.
I did want to note one thing that is really, really cool about the Windows 8 Pro version is that it's going to have a 1920 by 1080 resolution screen,
which is insane.
Yeah, I mean, that is a very, very crisp, beautiful resolution for such a small device. However, the RT version, the one that's released now, has the standard kind of laptop, what we've come to, be used to on a laptop, and that's 1366 by 768 pixels, which is still good.
Yeah, it's still decent.
But having a full HD screen on a tablet is pretty cool. So that Pro one's definitely looking pretty good. The only other real big differences are 2 gigs of RAM on the RT, 4 gigs of RAM on the Pro, and then your storage, you're looking at 32 gigabytes and 64 gigabytes on the RT, and you're looking at, I believe, 64 and 128 on the Pro. So that pretty much sums that up.
With the ability for expansion too, you can always add more.
Right. With the between the USB port and the SD slot, you definitely have the ability to add more storage. And Justin noted before we started the show, we've the cloud also, with the cloud being available, or that concept, that ability to store your documents on servers, having a whole lot of memory on your tablet especially, and even your home computer, if you're not doing things like video editing and things like that, you don't necessarily need a whole lot of storage anymore. I think really just the developers and gamers and video editors and such were the ones who still need that storage, but the average consumer, I think, they're pretty much covered. So yeah, cloud kind of takes that over. I still hate that term.
I do too.
And I didn't even know what it was for the longest time. I thought it was some cool, amazing thing, and then I realized it's just a fancy word for we put your files on a server.
Yep. I think that's what made me mad too, because I was overanalyzing it, and then I found out that it's just somebody's server in somebody else's house.
Yeah.
And they have access to it too. So.
Yeah, it totally sounded way cooler. But as techies, we should know better.
Yeah.
But we definitely dragged that topic on longer than I expected.
Yes.
There was a debate on whether that should have been the main topic or not. But we're going to get to our main topic after our music break here. We're going to play a song from... You know what? Actually, I'm going to switch up the songs. I was going to play a song from my band, but it's a longer one. So I'm going to play the song I plan to close the show out with instead, because it's a quick song, since we kind of went over. And I'd rather give you the choice to listen to the closing song that's long, rather than... you get my point. So this song we're playing is another local band here from Fort Wayne, Indiana, called the Red Barrels. They actually are defunct, not funk, but not around anymore. And I was actually part of this band at one point, not on this recording, and not for a very long time. We tried to resurrect it because we liked the band so much. It's I don't know. It's a style that I don't know if people like it, but I liked it. I thought it was fun, and crowds liked it. But the members involved, it was a cross between members of my old band and another popular band, and we were all friends at one point, and through the music industry and beefs and stupid things like that are ridiculous, especially on a local Indiana city level. It had caused it to be a hard thing to resurrect. But anyway, this is the Red Barrels. Yodelin' Auctioneer is the name of the song. Again, I don't know the title of the album anymore. What was it, like Smoking and Drinking, I think?
Yeah, that sounds right.
But yeah, this is featuring Turbo on the drums, and a guy named Rusty on guitar, and then again Scotty Too Hottie, Poop to Flex. I'm in every band in the world, or at least in Fort Wayne, on the guitar, and then a kind of vagabond nomad named Justin, not this Justin, but a friend of many of my friends, Justin, who kind of disappears and reappears, is the vocalist here. So, without over introducing a band that doesn't exist anymore, here is the Red Barrels' Yodelin' Auctioneer.
Dinner time, come get your supper!
And we are back. That was the Yodelin' Auctioneer by the Red Barrels, the band that does not exist anymore. And to clarify, that is a demo recording, not the top quality. But it's one of those bands, though, that it's a lot more fun to listen to live.
Oh, yeah.
Just a very high energy deal. You may not be into the whole southern honky tonk, I don't know what in the world they were doing style, but it's definitely it was a fun thing to watch, and why I wanted to drum for them when they broke up, and disappointed that I never got to. But anyway, to the main topic. Yes. Client management, client control. Is the client always right? What's the answer, Justin?
Yes.
No.
In sales.
As Justin and I both have experience working freelance, either in the IT field with Justin, or web design, development, graphic design, whatever, all the things that I do, I've learned that the client is not always right, and want to be careful here because I don't want to sound bitter or anything like that. But there's a big difference between this world of this freelance service and places like restaurants and such, where in a restaurant, if you've ever worked in a restaurant, Justin, have you worked in a restaurant?
No,
really?
Actually, I've done magic in a restaurant, if that counts.
No,
but I've never worked.
Magic's not real, Justin.
I know magic is not real.
That's interesting though. I've most people I've met have at least worked in a restaurant at one point in time, but I've worked in a lot of restaurants before becoming a professional, whatever it is I am, and in that kind of setting, the client is right, the customer's right, or at least that concept is true. When a customer complains about their food, even though it's actually done well, or not done well, but everything's fine, but they're a shitty customer, for lack of better words, excuse my language, but you know what I mean, it's just, say it's a $20 meal, the best thing to do is say, yeah, you're right, we're sorry, here's your free meal, get away, rather than deal with the hassle. A restaurant can handle that. It's not going to break them.
Yeah.
Us freelancers, and even small design firms and things like that, but speaking from a freelance point of view, we can't have that. We can't let the client take over and control the I don't want to say the sale, because it's not a sale, but the service. They're hiring us as professionals to do something they don't know how to do, and when they start telling you how to do it, you need to put a stop to that at that point. And again, I say this without bitterness. It sounds, I don't want to come off as, hate clients. Although I might say something different when I'm not on the air. But anyway, point being, once a client takes control, it's not about, the client's stupid, or the client doesn't know what they're doing, whatever. It's just not good. It's not good for the service itself. It's not good for your business. You need to maintain control of it, because the project can spiral out of control if the client has control of you. And so you need to be careful when clients start telling you how to do things, or to do things that are wrong in regards to what you're hired for. That there's better ways to do things, or the right way to do things, or things that maybe they're suggesting something that on the surface seems like a logical idea, but because you're a professional, you're experienced, there is a better way to do it, and that they're gonna have issues down the line, and they don't want to listen to you. That's what I mean when I say, don't lose control. Take control. You're the professional. You're the one who needs to be, because you're going to be, like it or not, you're going to be the one who gets a phone call when they didn't take your advice, and down the line, that issue that you foresaw happens. You're the one who's going to get a phone call, and you're the one who's going to get blamed for it.
Yeah. And
so
that's kind of what separates us as the professionals, as the freelancers, is that we have the ability to look forward and know what doing certain things is going to cause. Like with me, with computer work, I know that if I do something a certain way, and if they just want me to, we'll just do this, then I know that it could potentially cause another problem down the road. So I'm going to prevent them from having me do that. We know what's going to happen with certain choices. They don't. They just think of what's easiest. And sometimes what's easiest isn't the right thing to do.
Exactly. And, lost my train of thought. But when they do this stuff, I mean, you do run the risk of, losing the client, offending them, things like that. And that's why we tend to lose control of the service or of the situation, is out of fear. And I know that some people, especially freelancers, we're not living check to check, we're living, job to job. And sometimes a job could be, we have a job for a client that lasts 3 months, and then we go a whole month without any work. So there's a fear factor there where we feel like we have to do everything the client says. But unlike the restaurant, we can't afford that. In the long run, in the short term, it may seem like just whatever, let the client get what they want. But in the long run, it's gonna come back and bite you. And not necessarily every time, but why risk it? And and also, who knows, the situation could also be reversed. You may not be desperate for work 3 months down the line. You may be actually prospering, doing very well, and then all of a sudden you have this client come back, that client that didn't listen to you, and all of a sudden they're interfering with you and they're screwing you up because you are full. You've got a full plate. You've got clients who respect you. You're getting paid what you were asked, or what you asked for. You know what I mean? You don't have time for this, and you told them. So you told them back then, and now they're interfering with your life. So I mean, you're going to get screwed over either way. Either you're going to have no work, and then you're going to have someone calling you and complaining and wanting you to do something for free to fix it, or you're going to be prospering, and then you've got this nagging issue, and it's not good. So keep control. Try to keep control of the sale. The project or the service. Don't overdo it. I mean, don't be a dick. Don't lose your client. I'm not trying to tell you to, Jim Jones your client. Don't control them, or in that fashion, but control the direction of the project. You are the expert. And by doing that, if the client leaves, if you lose the client, I know it may suck because you might need that money. It might be pretty devastating to you financially, but in the long run, that's the kind of client they are. And is that who you really want to be working with? Is that quality time? And most time, when you are a freelancer of something, you're doing a job that you're passionate about. You're freelancing, you're working for yourself because it's something that you love. And why ruin it with someone who doesn't appreciate what you're doing? Because that's what it really comes down to. Once they start telling you how to do it, they're basically telling you, I don't trust you enough, as the expert. You know what I mean? And how they get to that point, I don't know. Sometimes, there's things you can also do to keep that conversation from even happening or getting to that point. And that has to do with, confidence while you're working with the client. If you show confidence, the odds of them questioning your expertise, it's a lot lower. But if you act like you can be walked over or you don't know what you're doing, even if you do, but you get, nervous when you're talking to them or things like that, that shows a weakness, and it shows, it's a open door for them to come in and just kind of take control of the situation. And I've never seen it end well. It's never good, even personally and with other people I know who do things like this for a living. From the freelancer even to the just even the firm that I worked for before I quit to do education. I watched us get walked on all the time, and I don't want to point fingers or, talk bad about the company. But it was because of sales. It was fear of losing money. And ultimately, at the end of the day, in the long run, you're going to lose money if you let that fear take over. So, I don't know how they're doing now, and I don't want to speculate that, so we'll leave it at that. Borderline lawsuit here, but I don't know. I don't know, Justin. Am I? I don't know if I got all that out, but
no, I'm totally with you on that, and we're not saying that this isn't one of those situations where the client is always wrong either. Clients do have some input, but like Ivana said in the chat, that sometimes clients don't even know what they want, and that's where you or us, the professionals, come in. And it's especially difficult because I have done some graphic design freelance, not as much as Alan, but when it comes to creative freelance, it's very difficult because people are finicky and they think they know what they want, and they think they know how it should be done. But like Alan said, being the professional, we know how it needs to be done, and we know the process to take to get it done. And when they want to go around that process is where it starts to get kind of difficult. And I've learned, and this may or may not apply, but there's always, with computers and doing things like that, is we've always learned, especially on tech support over the phone, is and this is basic sales too, but to learn open-ended questions and controlling questions, which is like an open-ended question would be, so we're starting on this project, what do you want? And then that leaves the whole conversation open for them to tell you what they want and how they want it done. Now, if you do controlling questions, it would be more like, this is the project that you want. Can we use the color red? Yes or no? Yes. Okay. Can we do this for the background? Yes or no? Yes. Those are controlling questions. Keeping them yes or no keeps the ball in your court. The more you open up to their suggestion and their imagination is where you're going to kind of run into some problems. In my opinion, in my experience.
Yeah, you bring up a good point. And two, I also want to apologize first. I tend to forget that Justin is a graphic designer, and I always lump you in as IT. And
no, that's fine.
That's
my main specialty is IT.
Yeah, but I apologize. I always lump you in there, and I forget that you've done that too. And what you're saying there is exactly what I was getting across, and you've definitely added to it. That's a really important thing. The closed questions, those things not only do what you explain, but it does. It keeps you in control of the situation, and it shows that confidence I was talking about. If you don't have confidence, if you can't ask those questions to the client, and you do leave it open, then it doesn't show confidence. One thing I've heard a lot is, when I've been doing when I was doing graphic design mainly, and new to business and making a lot of these mistakes, I'd say things like, okay, so what do you want this to look like? And of course the answer is always, well, I don't know, you're the artist. And yep. That's a very open question, and that can leave, if you don't handle things from that point the right way, then you're going to be in a really bad spot. But you do actually want their input on that.
Yeah.
One thing that especially in graphic design and also in web design, that you or the freelancers and the clients don't necessarily understand is that the client needs to show you what they want. They may think they don't know, they're not an artist. Oh, I can't do that. That's what I'm hiring you for.
Mm-hmm.
Bull. That's not true, because the moment you come up with a comp based on their no input, they will know exactly what they want.
Yep.
and all of a sudden you're redoing it, and they're usually expecting you to redo it at no cost. So,
Yeah.
And that's, charging and things like that, that's a topic for another day, because we could go on for that for a long time about how to handle that. But that's stuff you want to avoid as well. So you tell the client they can. Don't make it feel like you're, passing the work off on them, but tell
Right.
them, look, for instance, let's say we have a real estate client. Now, I just happen to actually know a lot about real estate, so this isn't totally true. But I'm a web developer, or I'm a graphic designer, and a realtor hires me, and they say, well, I want you to design this ad for my business. And then I ask that question. Well, what are you thinking? What would you like it to look like? Do you have any ideas? And then they respond like we said. At that point, you need to tell them that they have to show you. I don't care if it's stick people, boxes, shapes, this goes here, or even pull out somebody else's ad. Open up the newspaper and show me another real estate ad, because I don't know your business.
Yeah.
I'm a graphic designer. You need to show me not only what you're thinking, but what is your business? What are the main things that need to be explained here? What points do you need to get across in order to get your business noticed with this ad?
Yeah.
I
And those
know
things
how
they
to
should
design
know.
it. Wait, what's that?
And those things they should know, absolutely.
Exactly. I know how to take those and make a product that's going to draw attention, but they need to tell me what I need to draw attention to.
Right.
And not only that, but what is most important, what is second important, and so on. So I know how to design the piece and guide people's eyes. Otherwise, I'm going to make it the way I'm going to make it. I'm going to make it look nice. I'm going to make it, whatever, and they're going to have concerns about it, or either that, or they're going to say, oh, that looks nice, and then I'm going to put out a product that's subpar for them.
Right.
Whether they know it or not, we didn't do them a good service. We didn't guide people's eyes. We did not, advertise them correctly. And, that's why we need the input. Sit with them, hand them a piece of paper and a pencil, and say, sketch some things out, doodle it out. There's nothing wrong with it, you don't have to be rude about it, but make them understand this is part of the process. And that right there is something that is very important, and something that we fail at a lot. And that is process. You need to have a process.
Oh yeah.
Whether it's your own, or you're using, methods that are kind of predefined for your business, whatever. If you have a process and you show them there's a process, then they'll follow it, or they'll be more likely to follow it. But if it just seems like this kind of open-ended situation, where we just kind of we move, we're going to work on this now, and then we're going to work on this maybe now, or let's work on this now, then of course you're going to have them, they're going to want to, they're actually probably naturally starting to get concerned about what they're spending their money on, and they want to gain control.
Yeah, because that goes back again to the confidence and then the credibility. You have to be able to back up what you're trying to pitch them.
Exactly.
If you come in there with no plan or no process, and you're just like, oh, well, what do you want? Well, I guess I could do that. They're going to go, well, what am I paying you for?
Exactly. And you also, you wouldn't, you have no idea how much faster you can get a job done, and basically get them in and out, not in a negative way, like, screw them, get them done with, but keep the ball rolling, get this client done and over with. Because the longer, I'm sure, Justin, you know this, the longer a project goes on, the more time there is for the client themselves to be distracted and not get you things you need.
Yep.
You know, that is one of the worst things I've encountered, is getting things from the client. I may be making a simple web page or a simple advertisement, and I tell them usually in the first meeting that, you know, okay, I'll have this done in 2 weeks. However, I'm saying that based on the fact that, or under the notion that you are going to get me things when I need them. When I say I need your logo, I need your logo. You know, when I say I need something, I need it. And from that point on, if it takes you a week, you know, to respond to my email and send me that logo, then 2 weeks is off the table. You know? And that's not good for anybody.
No, and they actually start to lose interest too. And if if the more stuff they get piled onto their plate at their company or whatever, and you're just asking them, okay, well, here's a mock-up of what I think the website should look like, and you send it to them, and they're busy, they might give you a response like, yeah, that's fine. But in actuality, that whole product might not be what they really want, but they're so busy and it's been so long that they're just passing it off.
And that's a good point too. When you said, all of it, but when you said lose interest, that's another thing. A lot of times, clients actually do want to be involved. They may act like they don't want to and say, you know, I'm not the artist, things like that. But you'd be surprised that if you do take the initiative and have that confidence and pull them in and make them part of the creative process, you'll find that they actually are interested. They actually get really invested in it, and it becomes a fun experience for them. And sadly, that's not how it goes usually in this no. You know, you're lucky to get through a sale with a client and get them to come back to you. But to actually give them an experience they enjoy, you know, something that's memorable, that's real tough. But it's actually, or it's rare, but it is something that with the right client you can actually do, and man, that is someone who is going to promote you, refer you to everybody. They're going to talk about the experience. You know, Alan, oops, sorry, I hit my mic. Alan sat down with me, and he showed me how to lay things out, like blah 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 blah, talk about the experience, how fun it was to work with Alan or Justin. And he taught me things that I didn't know. He told me about marketing, things like that. When they feel like they're a part of it and you have that confidence, you've really won. Bottom line, make sure you get the job done and you get them as a repeat client. But if you can also manage to make a, not necessarily a real friend, but but a friend out of them, right. At the same time, have this, a connection with them like that they want to tell other people about. Justin, you and I, that's kind of an example. Different situation, but when I met you, it was from you watching my videos, and you had, I have a hard time saying this stuff because I'm talking about myself, but I was obvious from your messages and talking with you from the beginning that you really liked what I was doing. You wanted to be a part of it, and and then everything you've done since then is, since you've been, you're now in the business, in the organization, you've been a part of it. You have, and it's that kind of feeling. That's what I'm talking about. You want to tell people about what I'm doing, in what we're doing. And that's the kind of thing you want in the freelance business, and, you know, with the client. If you can get a relationship like that, if you can get someone to feel the way you felt when you first met me and started, you know, viewing my tutorials and things like that, that is winning right there. And,
Yeah.
and I feel weird saying it because I'm talking about myself, and I feel like my head's going to grow and ego is going to explode. But I just saw it as a, you know, it's a good example.
Yeah, it is. And it's actually a good sales and marketing technique, and they actually call it opting in. And once you get somebody to opt in to a project, then they're kind of invested in it. And it's like me building my Speed Up Your Computer class. If I get a bunch of people's opinions on, well, how would you do this, or would you rather do this, all those people that I've asked those questions are now invested in my project. Therefore, when I release it, those people are going to say, oh yeah, he asked my opinion about that. And they're going to either want to buy it, or they're going to want to tell people about it.
Exactly.
You know?
And I've done the same thing with the Atom thing. However, I've made a mistake by... see how I word this right.
Good luck.
It wasn't necessarily a mistake, but I was doing the exact same thing. We just happened to get so busy that the hype and the urgency of it has been pushed to the back burner a little bit. But, you know, I was seeing the same thing. You know, I was saying, you know, I'm telling people we're going to build a product together for free.
Yeah.
It's going to be a free product for everybody, but I'm going to show you how to build a real product, a product that you can put your name on, a product that you can expand, things like that. You know, you bring them in, like you said, they opt in, and then they're in it. You know, they're passionate about it, and, you know, I'm hoping that I haven't spent too much time doing what, I mean, you know, the things that we're doing that are taking away from, or that have kept me away from finishing those videos up. We need to do, but
yeah.
But it's the same thing, and that's really good for your business. And I'm glad you brought that up, because that's very true. So, you know, that said, we also wanted to talk briefly about contracts and NDAs, which, you know, is kind of the same thing. And since we've got, I know Ivana isn't from here, I found out already that not all countries know what an NDA is, and they have different terms for it. So to clarify, NDA is a non-disclosure agreement. Basically, an NDA is something that I would sign, for instance, if I'm hired to work on someone's website. It basically means I'm agreeing to not discuss anything about the company, the project, you know, anything sensitive. I'm agreeing to keep my mouth shut, thus, you know, protecting them from me and their competitors. Because, I mean, what's stopping me from, one, going to their competitors and saying, hey, look, I can build you a website just like them, you know?
Yep. Or
I could go out and build my own version of their website and compete with them. So that's what an NDA is for. And I bring that up because, one, you should sign them. If you don't sign them, if somebody would like you to sign them, unless you have a valid reason not to, definitely sign it. I mean, right there you lose your trust if you refuse to sign an NDA. There's no harm in it unless it's going to hinder your business. Actually, Justin, you brought up a good point before we even started the show, and that was when you were working at one company, you had to sign an NDA that basically said that, what was it, 2 years or 3 years?
Oh yeah, that's right. At the computer company I worked for, it was just a small retail computer store, but I had to sign an NDA that was stating for 3 years after I leave the company, whether by termination or if I quit, I could not disclose the products that we used, how we obtained those products, our manufacturers, the software that we used to repair computers, and also that I could not work for any competitors within the entire county that I lived in there. So I couldn't basically get another computer job in there. However, I signed it, and my boss did not sign it, neither did a witness. So it was kind of a void contract. But he did force all of his employees to do that because he had an employee before me actually leave his company, go to a different computer repair shop, and then give that computer repair shop all of his manufacturers and all kinds of sensitive information and all the tools that they used. So he started doing the non-disclosure agreements.
Yeah, and actually that brings up a good point. We're actually, in that case, we're talking about two different types of agreements. One is non-disclosure, one is non-compete.
Yeah, there's a non-compete clause. Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes, a lot of times, it's in the same. It's just a clause in the contract. And another example, your example, your scenario there, the person got away with it. It seems. The scenario I brought up to you earlier. I won't name the companies, but a guy I knew worked for a major audio and visual retailer here, and he signed a non-compete clause for 2 years. Then he went to go work for another retailer, popular retailer, national retail chain, and it was, I think, 2 or 3 months before his non-compete clause was up. And whether it's true or not from him, he says pretty much, almost 2 years had gone by. It didn't even really faze him. He didn't even think about the fact that he had that contract.
No, you don't keep track.
Right, it's been long enough. And so he went ahead and got this job. Well, the other company, which, by the way, is a huge company with money to spend on good lawyers, they caught wind of it, and because he was such a good salesperson, they felt it necessary to come after him, and they sued him, and he lost, and he ended up having to forfeit the commission he earned at the other company for those 3 months that he was working within within the bounds of that non-compete. So,
wow.
And that money, of course, obviously, I'm sure did not exist anymore. He was paying his bills with it, so he had to cough up this money, and it's, so that's risky business. That's scary business. And at the same time, I agree with it. I agree with what the company did to him, in the sense that they have a point. He was a good salesperson, and he signed a deal or an agreement, and for 3 months prior to the end of that agreement, he was selling for the competitor. And that's money that, in all reality, they should have either got themselves or should not have been made, or sales that should not have been made at all. So,
right.
I don't like the idea of the big company coming after, a guy just like me who, this guy was just making it, paying his bills and not living a lavish life or anything. So they really screwed him over.
Paycheck.
Exactly. And I didn't. So I'm not saying I'm agreeing to that, but they had every right to do what they did, because it is true. So the reason I wanted to bring those up is that you should sign them, and not only should you sign them, but you might actually, yeah, Ivana, that's what it is. Sorry, I'm referring to the chat.
Yep.
But there it goes. I looked at the chat and I lost my train of thought.
Well, make sure, and also, I'll jump in here real quick. Make sure when you are signing them that you are reading them as well.
Yes, definitely.
That's a young person's mistake. And I actually, when I went to work for that computer store, I thought it was just going to be temporary. I was supposed to be there for 4 months and then move out back to Washington. And I ended up working there for 2 years. And so I didn't realize that I had signed a non-compete clause. When I left there, I went to work for the school district, and luckily they weren't a repair shop, so I couldn't get sued. But, you know, I didn't read it. I just signed it. I was going to be there temporarily, but read what you're signing.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of cases where, well, I'm never suggesting that you don't ever, that you don't read something, but I mean, there are a lot of cases where we get documents thrown in our face that are boilerplate, an apartment lease, something like that. We tend to skim through or even just pretend we're reading it so it looks like we care, but essentially we just kind of just sign it, and that happens. That's life. But when it comes to things like this, when it comes to your job, your income, and your family, that all hinges on that. Read that document. Read every inch of it. Reread it. Make sure they're not using clever wording.
And if you don't understand it, you have the right to get a lawyer to read it for you and understand it for you before you sign it.
Exactly. And at this point, I want to clarify: we're pretty much talking about non-compete at this point. NDAs are more based on just covering the client's ass as far as you're not going out and giving out all their secrets. And it's not actually even a bad idea to suggest it if you're working for somebody. I mean, if you're working for mom and pop pizza shop, down the street, making them a website, it's not necessary to really go, hey, have you thought about me signing a non-compete? But if you're working with a big corporation, for one, they should bring it up. But if they haven't, it might actually be wise to at least just bring it up, because I know it sounds strange, but bringing it up and having your name on that paper proves that you aren't going to do anything, and there's a good chance that the fact that you did bring it up, if they think that you've done something, or I mean, the likelihood of them coming after you or even paying attention to what you're doing to try and catch you doing anything remotely near what they were doing or giving out secrets, the likelihood is a lot less. Because you brought it up, you said, hey, look, it's probably a good idea if I'd sign a non-disclosure, but
and it shows professionalism as well.
Exactly. It shows that you know what it is, and you know that what they have is valuable, whether that's true or not. But you're basically telling them, look, I understand that what I'm doing here and what you're telling me is good, valuable information. So I'd like to see you protected by it. I have no plans to do anything with it, but I see it. So it's there are some cases where that might be taken wrong, but at that point you can kind of gauge what kind of client you're working with anyways, and whether that's going to go south if you bring it up. But the other thing was just contracts in general. If you're a freelancer, have contracts. I don't care if it's boilerplate or if you have the money to have a lawyer write one up, do so. I mean, definitely do so. If you have the money or the ability to get a lawyer, or somebody who at least knows what they're doing with contracts and writing in general, have one written up, because our business is confusing. I often refer to our business, and when I say our business, I mean anything computers, really, but especially like graphic and web design and programming, things that most of the people hiring you have absolutely no idea what it entails. I often refer to, or liken that to car repair and things like that. Usually if you need to go to a mechanic, you have no idea what isn't, because the people that do, they change their own oil because they know how easy it is, They change their brakes, things like that. So if you're going to go to an auto mechanic to have those things done, you probably don't have any clue what they're doing.
And they know you don't have a clue either.
Exactly. So we're dealing with kind of the same situation here. We have a talent and a skill and a service we're offering, but these people have, many times no idea what it is. They just know they need it, and that's scary to them. So that fear can easily turn into a bad situation. So really, like I said, a boilerplate contract at least. But if you can get one written out specific to your business, to have clauses in there that specify certain things, like for instance, as a programmer, what a lot of people don't understand is that unlike HTML and CSS, just simple web design code that can be taken and reused, no one's really going to sue anybody over that. It gets different when you're talking about programming. If you hire me to build you, not only a website, but say maybe, like a back-end system to manage your business and clients, like a CRM, a customer relations manager, something like that. And I'm building this thing from scratch. It may be off of your direction and some of your ideas, but it's technically my product. It's my work. Yeah. And
it's your code.
Right. And this kind of goes out to both sides. A lot of programmers don't understand that or know that. And even more so, the clients usually don't know that. But you own that if you want to. And you are basically giving them the right to use it, is what you're paying, or is what they're paying for. And the same goes for art. And this, I see this happen a lot. Graphic designers that don't understand that their art is valuable. Good graphic designers. But if you design a logo for somebody and they pay $50 for it, and it's a good logo, it's a professional logo, you did a good job, you are a real graphic designer, let me clarify that. But they pay $50 for it. That's for use, or it should be anyways. You should not be giving away something, especially like a logo, anything having to do with company or corporate identities and things like that, because you don't know personally. I mean, this company, if they need a logo, they either are doing a rebranding, or more than likely they're a brand new company, and you don't know the future of them. But you do know that if they succeed, your logo is going to be everywhere on everything they do, and your logo potentially is going to be what people think about when they think of their business. And you start putting that stuff together in your head. Imagine you designed the Windows logo and you gave it to Bill Gates for $100, and 30 years later you're thinking, how much money has this man made? Not necessarily from my logo. Obviously, it was the product that, but the logo was done well enough that it stuck. And if you can do branding that can stick, that is part of being in business and keeping your business alive. And so you need to understand the difference between making a piece of art and allowing someone to use it for a fee and giving them full ownership of it.
Yeah.
And many people don't understand that, both the designer and the client. And like I said, the same goes with the with software. But and a general rule of thumb is that if you want to sell the actual rights to the art to a client, usually if you don't know what to sell it to them for, the kind of common way to do it is whatever you originally told them times 3.
Yeah.
Now, if you already know this is a huge client, you might adjust that. And that might sound shady, like, oh, I know they've got more money, so I'm going to charge them more than I would, mom and pop pizza shop. But it's not about the fact that they have more money. It's the fact that you already know they're going to get more exposure, and your logo is going to help them. You know what I mean? You're already privy to that information. So it's just things to think about.
It's going to go on everything. It's going to go on their business cards, their letterheads, everything. So do you really want to sell your rights to that, or do you want to hold on to it? And I'll give a quick example of when I first taught my brother graphic design in Photoshop, and he started making his own logos and stuff and designs for people. He made the rookie mistake of uploading them to Facebook as soon as he got finished with them. Now, what's to stop somebody from just going and copying that and putting it up as their own work? He had no branding on it. He had no signature on it, no waters, no nothing. So I told him from now on, if he is going to show somebody, he needs to put a watermark on it with his name or something, so they can't just steal it. And it's like that website that I just quickly made for the Bubba's Smoke Shop.
Mm-hmm.
I made a quick website. I showed it to him, and then I got home and I took the whole website down, but I put up just a picture of what the website would look like, so they couldn't go in and actually take my source code and just make their own, because I wanted them to pay me to make the website.
Yeah, exactly.
I didn't want them just to go in and take my code and make a website, and then I don't get anything. I'm just, cut out of the loop, and it sounds selfish, but it's protecting myself for the work that I put in.
Exactly. And I'm looking at the chat here, and is it, well, I'm going to attempt to do this again, but Ivana, if I'm pronouncing that wrong, I apologize, but brought up, or had mentioned something about what I was just talking about with the logo. Says that, they're more interested in PHP, and I want to reiterate that what I was talking about with graphic design and the logo applies to PHP and programming in general. Yeah. Because once you're past HTML and CSS, just that simple markup language, with PHP you're building a product. You're building, to me, it's no different than building a nuts and bolts real life thing. You know what I mean? It's your
like
work.
A car.
If it's no different than being a carpenter and building a table. That's your table. You can charge people to borrow it, or you can charge people to own it. Mm-hmm. And I guarantee you that if you're going to let somebody use it for a day, you're going to charge them, a lot less. But if they want to own that beautiful handcrafted table, you're going to sell it for, what it's worth, and that could go from, the $50 to borrow it for a day and to 30,000, or not 30, but $3,000 to own it. And an example, I had a client who mistakenly called my company thinking that we were software developers, which we weren't. And I'm not a very good salesperson, but somehow I convinced this man to, go ahead and let us build what he was looking for with web technology, which wasn't, clarify that there's nothing wrong with that, but we did a great job, and I wasn't scamming him or anything, but I turned that sale around and I was proud of myself. But anyway, the whole thing, we basically, without, of course, I don't have an NDA with him, but and actually his contract is run out now that I think of it, but I'll still try to be or keep sensitive stuff out of the conversation. But basically, the program was for a portrait studio, and they wanted to have a system that allowed them to take the photos from the memory card and have them instantly come up on one of 3 stations out in the lobby. And each little station was like and some people have probably seen these, they got the idea from some national portrait studios. But basically, each station was a little table with like a 42-inch TV on it and some chairs, so that the moment the photographer was done shooting the pictures, they could meet them over at the table and start reviewing them.
Yep.
So we were, charged with the task of pretty much handling every single piece of the business that happened from the moment the photo was taken to the moment they check out. We built it so that they had a server, and that's where the card reader was. When they put the card in, they drag the photos into a certain folder that the server reads, and there were 3 folders, one for each station. And if you wanted to be at station 1, you dragged them into station 1, and automatically station 1 loads up those pictures. So the clients are already over there, and they start seeing their pictures loading up while they wait for the photographer to come back. So then the photographer meets them over there, and then they go through and just some simple image editing tools like saturation and cropping and things like that. Plus, they get to see all the shots and choose which ones they wanted, and how many. So we had to build a system that allowed them to, enter in quantities, and there were, specials. So the client was able to, say, if they buy more than 3, they get, X amount of % off. If they buy 10 prints, they get this % off. So it was a very, very in-depth system. I mean, we built this thing. It was pretty immaculate at the time, anyways, especially for how new we were to this in general. But and that it was all web technology. We basically had Firefox loaded up on the TVs in full screen, so nobody knew that, the difference. People didn't realize it was a website, not a software application. So, at that point, once they're happy with their choices and they've made some adjustments, the client or the photographer is able to say, finish order, and then meet them over at the cash register and have a readout of everything they bought and a printout. And at the same time as they're checking out, the printer, then all those pictures were sent over to the printer. Yeah, Ivana, it was a very cool project. Sorry, again, I'm referring to the chat. We had a blast. We totally undercharged for it because we didn't know what we were doing. Nobody told me what I'm telling you right now, but I was savvy enough to know that I'm building something that, because they're only spending, off the top of my head, I think the total price tag was like $3,800, which, had I known better, that was ridiculously low.
Yeah.
That should have been probably a $15,000 project or more.
Yeah.
However, I did make it very clear to him that this cost, because he was on a budget. You know, and it was his daughter's portrait studio. He was funding her business, and you know, I get wrapped up in sentimental crap like that. So, plus the project was interesting enough that the challenge was intriguing. So I didn't want to haggle over the price and risk losing it, because I wanted to, I wanted to build it. So, you know, but it was very clear to them that $3,800 or whatever the total ended up being, it was somewhere around there, that was for a year. That after that, you know, they're technically not allowed to use my software unless we renegotiate. If you want full rights to it, then it was something like 30 grand, which of course he didn't have. Obviously, otherwise he wouldn't be paying me such a low price. But that's an example. That was my product. I put my heart and soul into it, and even though it was kind of their idea, and not even really their idea, to be honest. I mean, they got most of the idea from another portrait studio. We didn't really steal anything, but you know, just the general concept of, you know, the little tables out in the lobby, you know, and the big screen. Pretty much everybody was doing that anyway. But the stuff we were doing behind the scenes was pretty damn cool, especially for everything being done over the web. We had everything. We had a network, kind of an intranet, and that's kind of what ran everything. And everything had to run perfect and smooth. If anything happened between the photographer getting the photos to the computer, or the order not going to the cash register correctly, or the order not going to the printer correctly, you know, there was a lot involved there, and everything had to do with not only, you know, the web technology, but you know, the networking too. Everything had to be running smooth, and communicating correctly. So anyway, it was kind of a tangent about that project in general, and I kind of sometimes I forget I built that, because it was one of the very first projects I built when I became a developer. One of the things I liked to do when I first started developing was take projects that I had no clue how to do, and challenge myself with it, and luckily I ended up making them, and not being able to figure out how to do them. But yeah, anyway, point being, protect your work. That, you know, that work was amazing for us. We put time into it. I mean, we ended up spending time. It was a client that was out of town. They were about a 2-hour drive away from where we were at. They were in Indianapolis, and when it came time to open the store, we were there, basically living in the studio for, I don't know, it might have been 2, 3, 4 days, working out bugs, making sure that everything was ready for the release. And actually, the first night we went there, we had just started working. The owner and the daughter and family had just left, and they were distracting us, and we weren't getting a lot done. And we were excited. We were ready to go. They leave, and they basically tell us, once we leave, we only have one key, so, you know, you basically can't go anywhere together, for one, you know, and if you do go somewhere, be careful, because if you get locked out, you're out. Well, so sure enough, not only that, but the moment we sit down, we're all in, you know, I've got my Monster drinks and coffee, and the other guy's got his Mountain Dews, and the power goes out. and it was dead winter. The building was not heated very well because the guy was being cautious about his money, and we sat there. It was late, so we didn't call them and tell them. We didn't want to bother them, so we slept there and actually covered ourselves up in wrapping like tarps and things. I don't know, like tarp kind of material from items that had been shipped there. Like basically like packaging materials is what we slept with. And that's the dedication we put into that project. And that's why I'm saying, don't let that go for nothing. It's your work, it's your baby, it's your creation. But yeah, I've tangented enough that I don't even think Justin's paying attention anymore.
Sure I am.
But I think we got the point across, though. Contracts, do them. Like I said, even if they're boilerplate, just get a signature. Make sure that you are covered. And
yeah.
Oh wow.
It gets you both on the same page, so you both know, what's going on.
Yeah, exactly. And sorry, I just saw a guy that I haven't talked to in a long time. Realized that he's been listening. Thanks, Phil.
Oh.
Phil's in the music scene here. We've known each other for
oh,
quite
nice.
a while. And actually, he's kind of my twin. If I still had long hair. But yeah. The point being, you need to be covered if things go south. If you need to actually, it'd be really nice to see the developers, the designers taking the client to small claims a little more than the other way around, because that's the way it generally works. I've been to small claims court at least 4 times. I've won every case because the client didn't know what they were doing, and at that time there was usually not a contract. So contrary to what I just said, the fact that there wasn't a contract helped my case. But yeah, anyway, I think I've made my point without dragging it on. Justin, do you have anything to add?
Not really.
That's not the answer.
I think you covered it all.
You needed to add something. You haven't met your quota.
I really haven't had to sign too many contracts in my life. I mean, as far as graphic design work goes, and I mean, mainly with the computer repair stuff that I do, I don't sign a lot of contracts. The only thing that I do have people sign is that they make a backup of their computer, and that they acknowledge that they have a backup of their computer before I start any work. That way, if their computer is ruined by anything I do, then they have a backup to go back to. But other than that, yeah, I don't sign a lot of contracts in the IT business, and I don't do a lot of graphic design work anymore, so.
Yeah. Sorry, got distracted by the chat again.
I don't happen.
I love the chat, but when people listen to this, when it's not live, these pauses and distractions totally don't make
Yeah, they
sense.
probably have no idea what's going on.
Yeah, and we don't. We get most of our plays are after, since we tend to do shows like at a moment's notice and at no given time.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's 5:30 a.m. my time, which I'm wondering.
2:30 a.m. my time.
Yeah, and I'm wondering why Phil's even up listening to me at this point in time. He's either finishing up a long night or starting at a job that probably sucks if it's this early.
Yeah.
And I'm kidding with you, Phil. But Anyway, that is our show. Remember, like us on Facebook, but you probably already know that because that's how you got here. We are doing good financially, but not self-sustaining yet. So donations are still very, 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 very times 10 appreciated.
Been helpful.
Yeah, and they're easy to do. Donation. Shoot, no. I don't even know where to go. Sorry, it's donate.thedigitalcraft.com. And, don't be afraid to give us $5. Don't be afraid to give us 50. But I don't want anybody to think that, even if you just have a couple bucks to give, that we're not going to appreciate, and it doesn't help. It really does. So,
yeah,
keep that in mind. But more than anything, if you don't know already, we offer private courses, and that is a very, very big, one of the best ways for us to keep this thing funded. Oh yeah, Ivana brought up a good point that I've been hearing from a lot of people. Yeah, some of the other countries, or a lot of the other countries, don't have PayPal. However, you can pay with credit card as long as you can click on the contribute link and get to the page where it asks how much you want to contribute. There is down at the bottom left, in small print, sadly, there is information on how to pay with a credit card instead of a PayPal account. However, if PayPal is actually blocked, then you're in a different situation, and that probably means you live in Iran. And you know how I feel about Iran.
Yep, because if you ran, I ran.
If I ran, I ran. Douchery. But yeah, sorry.
No, the private sessions, those are definitely good. I know we've discussed having Jack do some private sessions. I'm not sure what he was going to be teaching, but I would like to be doing some private sessions as well with computer repair, computer questions and things like that. I have 15 years of experience in computer repair and computer networking, so I can definitely help out with some questions.
Keep talking, Justin.
Oh.
Typing.
Oh, he's typing in the chat. No, I was the private sessions for the computer repair can be anything from a home computer question, how to remove a virus, to how do I get rid of this file, or if you want to learn how to speed up your computer, I am doing a course on udemy.com. That's udemy.com. Along with Alan's class and Jack's class, I will be doing a speed up your own computer, so you can skip the repair shops and save you a lot of money. It's going to teach you the tools that Windows has in it to speed your computer up, and then also I'm going to teach you the tips and tricks of the trade that I use and the computer repair shops use to charge you hundreds and hundreds of dollars to speed up your computer. So if you take the course, you won't need to.
That something else that is good about that is not only avoiding the computer shops and their high rates, but all of these scams out there. All those ads you see, click here to speed up your computer, or your computer's slow, you need to speed it up, things like that. Most of those are scams.
Yeah, and the TV, like late night TV commercials and stuff about, is your computer running slow? Go to, speedupmycomputer.com. Don't do that, because all they're going to do is say that you have a virus on your computer, and a common user will have no idea. that you have a virus on your computer or not. I could tell you that you have a virus on your computer and you would believe it. And that's exactly what they do. They'll say, oh, there's a virus, and oh, look, now that you've paid us $50, we've removed said virus that never existed before. It's just a scam.
And well, some of those may be actual legitimate businesses, but at the same time, they're probably going to get you to sign up for a plan, download their software and pay for it, by the month, when you can just take a course and actually learn all those things.
And it's lifetime access.
Yeah, and they're not hard. I mean, a lot of the biggest things with computers, a lot of the problems people have, it's all based on the fear of the computer itself. The fear that you're going to click on something and screw it up. But ultimately, everything is pretty much laid out in a way that's supposed to be simple. And if you get that fear factor out of the way, then you realize everything is pretty much right in front of your face. And that's why, taking a course on it, and just knowing how to do this stuff, is so much more lucrative than, risking scam, paying for a service that's going to go on and on and on. And that's another service is really how I should put it. Think about how many monthly things you pay for now these days.
Yeah.
And then also, paying the outrageous rate at a computer repair shop.
Yeah, and it also teaches you in the class, once you learn this course, it's only about 20 lectures. They're about 5 minutes a piece, but it's going to teach you, if you have to go into a repair shop, it'll teach you what to look out for, and you can kind of call them on their shit, if I can say that if it's like going to a car repair shop and they tell you have a bunch of things going on and you just agree, well, take this course, and then you can go in and say, well, I already did that and I already did all that, so you don't need to be charging me for any of that stuff. So
Phil just
3D modeling.
Yeah, brought up a point. I do not have any courses in 3D modeling yet. I don't know if Phil remembers or knew me long enough to know that was my original degree, or at least my original field of study. And I put about 3 years of education into it, along with my own, interest as a kid, learning how to build 3D models and animation. So
yeah, me too.
We don't actually have any courses. I do have a video series that I've started and haven't finished about working with 3D models in Photoshop, which a lot of people don't know you can do, as far as painting textures and things like that. But even though I don't have any courses yet, private sessions, I'm more than willing to dust off my 3D software and do some private sessions, with the disclaimer that 3D Studio Max is what I'm comfortable with, and any other software I would have to purchase and learn, so we might have to work out a deal with that. But I'd actually be excited to teach 3D modeling again, or be involved in it again. However, there is a limit, though, because I didn't finish and I haven't been in that field in a while. I can teach the basics up to the intermediate, and then from there on, it's in your hands, and you can take it from there. So I don't want to give any false advertising that I can turn you into a Pixar artist.
Sure you can.
But no, I can definitely do private lessons, and I will do some 3D courses later on. They will be basic courses because I won't do courses in things that I'm not 100% confident that I can, follow through and do a full, college or professional level course. However, I can teach one-on-one up until that point with confidence. So hopefully that came out the right way. It didn't. Point is that I do know a lot about 3D, but it's been a while, and
that's
any courses
that's
I
what
will
I
do, I'm definitely going to stick to the basics just to cover me. But in private sessions, those work a little different anyways, because we're kind of working more on exactly what you have and want to do and want to learn, and I'm going to be able to do that way better. Phil, we'll talk about that.
Private sessions are just more flexible.
They are, and you're basically getting it's a third of the price of what I was charging to do web development and things like this as a professional. So while I'm not doing the work for you, I am walking through it with you, and you're getting, I think, a pretty good deal having a professional, pretty much standing behind you and teaching you and walking through. Because we're not in the private sessions, it's less about, necessarily teaching you how to be a web designer. I'm teaching you how to do the thing you want to do. You're building a website for your restaurant. I help you build a website for your restaurant. So, I don't know. I think hopefully that came off right too. But so it's a little, sometimes it's a little different, and that's good. That's that's what the private sessions are for, is to customize. That's not to say that people who want to be professionals, that's not good for them too. It's totally good for them. But I wanted to clarify that's that fine tuning and just specifically pinpointing someone's project will get something done that you need done, and you're going to get it at a third of a cost that it would cost you to hire someone to do it, by you doing it alongside with me. So it's not a bad deal. And to wrap everything up, because that wasn't supposed to be a tangent, that was supposed to be the end of the show, which I think was about 20 minutes ago. But point is that at the moment, that's the best way for us to generate income. We love donations and all that, but I think I can speak for all three of us, even though Jack's not here, but we would much rather make that money in a private session. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Doing the work. Not that we haven't done a lot and we don't have to do a lot to keep this thing running, so the donations are not necessarily just free money, but
right.
It's good money for us, and it's money well spent for you, and it goes towards keeping us going, keeping our equipment up, keeping us able to do things like this show, which costs money, all that stuff. So, donate.thedigitalcraft.com. Thedigitalcraft.com/booking will take you to the private session page. If you have a specific need or time slot that's not listed there, you can always get a hold of us on Facebook, and we'll work out something. The times on the page are there just because I know for a fact I'm available on those 2 days, Monday and Wednesdays, at those 5 1-hour slots each of those days, and I know I'm always available. That doesn't mean that's the only time that I'm willing to do private sessions.
Right.
It's really
And we're going
just-
to add in some more times. So when we get, Jack and me into the private sessions as well.
Right,
There'll
exactly.
be some more
There's
times.
there's gonna be more, and you'll be able to choose who your instructor is, and that'll be based pretty much on the specialty of the instructor. So that should be cool too. But yeah, and we'll get into more of that on the next show, which may not happen today because I think we used up all of our time.
Looks like it.
For the amount of time that we pay for to be on the air. But so we're gonna wrap it up. Justin, anything to say?
No, just thanks everybody that was listening, everybody that was in the chat, Nirvana, Cassie, and Phil, and everybody else that's listening. Appreciate it. And stay tuned for the Speed Up Your Computer course that I'll be releasing here in the next week or so.
Good deal. Sounds good. Everything he just said, plus if you didn't catch the beginning of the show, we will be adding some charities to the site that we're going to start helping. So keep an eye out for that. The first one's most likely going to be the Hope House here in Fort Wayne, Indiana. And if you missed the beginning of the show, go ahead and go back and you can listen to the beginning of the show and hear a little bit more about them. But other than that, yeah, private sessions, donate, keep listening to our show. One of these days we'll actually air it at a consistent time, and all that fun jazz. But anyway, we're gonna close out the show with our last song, and this is a song from one of the bands I'm in, which of course I try to spread out promoting my own music as much as possible, but while we build our music bank, sometimes I've got to toss my own music in there. But this is an acoustic song from my band That Crafty Devil. We've actually never played our acoustic songs live, and the acoustic songs are written by me, actually. I am the guitar player on the songs instead of the drummer like usual. So this is a song from That Crafty Devil called Pain Loves Company, and if you're not asleep yet, this one should mellow you out and put you to sleep. In a good way. In a good way. I didn't think that one out before I said it. Okay, thanks everyone. Thanks Phil. Thanks Ivana. Thanks Cassie, was it? Or Casey?
Yep.
Cassie.
Cassie.
And we will talk to you guys soon.
Shed one tear. old school.